They say money screams, but true wealth whispers. For 3 years, Vivian whispered. She scrubbed their floors, cooked their meals, and took every ounce of their venom with a smile. They called her a gold digger. They called her trash. Liam Anderson thought he was trading up when he handed her divorce papers on their anniversary, laughing as he threw her out for a woman with a better pedigree. He didn't know the woman he was discarding wasn't just Vivian the housewife. She was Vivian Sterling, the shadow owner of the very conglomerate holding his family's entire fortune in its palm. And when the whispers stopped, the screaming began. The chandeliers at Le Bernardin were vibrating, or perhaps it was just Vivian's hands. She sat at the best table in the house, table 4, near the wood-panelled wall, smoothing the fabric of her black dress. It was a simple piece, unbranded with a matte finish that absorbed the light rather than reflecting it. Across from her sat Liam Anderson, the man she had loved for 3 years. The man who had spent the last 20 minutes checking his Rolex Submariner and texting under the table. "Happy anniversary, Liam," Vivian said softly. Her voice was steady, but her eyes scanned his face, searching for the man she had married in that small chapel in Vegas. Liam didn't look up. His thumb swiped rapidly across his screen. "Yeah. Happy anniversary, Viv. Look, we need to order quick. Mother is hosting that charity gala for the DeWitt family tonight at the estate. I can't be late." "We haven't even had wine yet," she whispered. "We aren't having wine." Liam finally placed the phone down face up. A notification flashed Chloe. "Can't wait to see you. Wear the blue tie." Vivian saw it. She didn't blink. She had known about Chloe DeWitt for 6 months. She knew about the late nights at the office, the business trips to Aspen, the smell of Chanel Num. 5. A scent. Vivian never wore clinging to his collar. She had stayed because she believed in vows. She believed that beneath the arrogance the Anderson family had instilled in him, Liam was still the kind, struggling architect she'd met in a coffee shop. She was wrong. "Vivian." Liam sighed, leaning forward. His handsome face, usually so warm, was twisted into a mask of impatient pity. "We need to talk, and I wanted to do this here in public so you wouldn't make a scene." Vivian picked up her water glass. "A scene? Have I ever made a scene, Liam?" "You're emotional. You're simple," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "Look, this isn't working. It hasn't been working for a long time. You don't fit in my world. You try and it's pathetic. My mother sees it. My friends see it. You're a barista, Vivian. You were a barista when I met you, and honestly, you still act like one." He reached into his jacket pocket. Vivian expected a jewelry box, a generic apology bracelet. Instead, he pulled out a thick, folded manila envelope and slid it across the white tablecloth. It hit the centerpiece with a dull thud. "Divorce papers," Vivian stated. She didn't ask. "Signed and notarized," Liam said, his voice dropping to a businesslike coldness. "I'm being generous. You get the Honda. You get $50,000 cash. That's more money than you'd see in a decade serving coffee. But you need to sign tonight, and you need to be out of the penthouse by tomorrow morning. Chloe is moving in." The air in the restaurant seemed to freeze. A waiter hovered nearby, sensing the tension, and backed away. "Chloe," Vivian repeated. "Chloe DeWitt, the shipping heiress." "She understands the pressure I'm under," Liam snapped, defensive now. "She brings value to the Anderson name. Her father is investing in my new Skyline project. What do you bring, Vivian? Your meatloaf recipe." My mother is embarrassed to introduce you at parties. She tells everyone you're the help. Vivian reached out and touched the envelope. Her fingers were manicured not with the gaudy gels Chloe favored, but with a clear, strengthening polish. "Is that what you think?" Vivian asked, her eyes locking onto his. "That I bring nothing? Let's be real." Liam scoffed, checking his watch again. "You have no lineage, no connections, no assets. You're a liability. I need a partner, not a dependent." Vivian picked up the envelope. She didn't open it. She just held it, feeling the weight of 3 years of lies. "You're right, Liam. I don't fit in your world." "Finally," he breathed, relieved. "You're being sensible." "I don't fit," she continued, her voice dropping an octave, becoming something darker. "Because your world is too small." Liam laughed. It was a loud, barking sound that drew stares. "Small. My family owns half of Midtown. We are the elite, Vivian. You're just passing through. Now sign the papers. I have a gala to get to." Vivian reached into her purse, a battered leather tote that Beatrice Liam's mother had once called a grocery bag, and pulled out a pen. It wasn't a cheap Bic. It was a Mont Blanc Meisterstück, heavy and black. Liam didn't notice. He never noticed the details. She signed her name with a flourish. Vivian Hall. She slid the papers back. "Keep the money," she said, standing up. "And keep the Honda. I won't be needing them." "Don't be dramatic," Liam sneered, snatching the papers. "How will you get home?" "Walk." Vivian looked down at him. For the first time, Liam felt a strange chill, a pricking at the back of his neck. It was the feeling a gazelle gets when the wind changes, bringing the scent of a lion. But he shook it off. This was just Vivian. Poor orphan Vivian. "My ride is here," she said. She turned and walked out of the restaurant. Liam watched her go, shaking his head. "Idiot," he muttered, texting Chloe. "It's done. She's gone. Champagne is on me." Vivian didn't leave the restaurant immediately. She stood on the sidewalk of West 51st Street, the cool New York evening air hitting her face. She took a deep breath, inhaling the exhaust and the expensive perfume of the city. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. It wasn't a taxi. It wasn't an Uber. It was a Rolls-Royce Phantom extended wheelbase, with tinted windows so dark they looked like voids in the fabric of reality. The driver, a man named Arthur, with shoulders like a linebacker and a suit that cost more than Liam's annual bonus, stepped out. He opened the rear door. "Good evening, Madam Sterling," Arthur said, his British accent crisp. "Not Sterling yet, Arthur," Vivian said, her voice tired. "Tonight I'm just trash." "Hardly, madame." Arthur waited for her to slide into the plush leather interior before closing the door. Inside the car was a sanctuary. Vivian leaned back and closed her eyes. The mask was slipping. The Vivian Hall persona. The shy orphan who worked at a bookstore and made great coffee was dissolving. "Where to?" Arthur asked from the front. "The Anderson estate," Vivian said. "I have to pack my things, and I want to say goodbye to Beatrice." Arthur caught her eye in the rear-view mirror. "Is that wise, madame? You know how she is?" "I know exactly how she is," Vivian said, opening her eyes. They were cold now. "That's why I'm going. I need them to remember tonight. I need them to remember every single word they say to me when I have nothing. It will make what comes next so much sweeter." The Anderson estate in the Hamptons was a sprawling monstrosity of new money pretending to be old money. Pillars that were too thick gold leaf where wood should be, and a driveway filled with Ferraris and Porsches. The charity gala was in full swing when the Rolls-Royce dropped Vivian at the service entrance at her request. She walked through the kitchen, ignoring the startled staff, and made her way to the grand staircase. She wasn't wearing the designer gowns the other women wore. She was still in her simple black dress. She ascended the stairs, heading toward the master suite to pack her bag, but a shrill voice stopped her on the landing. "Well, look who decided to show up. The stray cat." Vivian turned. Beatrice Anderson stood there, holding a flute of champagne. She was draped in diamonds. Diamonds Vivian recognized immediately as mid-tier clarity likely purchased from a wholesaler, not a heritage jeweler. Next to her stood Chloe DeWitt, wearing a dress that was cut too low and comprised of red sequins. "Hello, Beatrice," Vivian said calmly. "Chloe, Liam told us the good news." Beatrice smirked, taking a step closer. The smell of gin was overpowering. "He finally cut the dead weight. I told him 3 years ago, 'Liam, you don't marry the help you hire them.' But he was in his rebellious phase." Chloe giggled, covering her mouth with a hand that sported a massive sapphire ring. "Oh, don't be too harsh, Mrs. Anderson." Vivian tried. It must be hard pretending to be civilized. A small crowd of guests had gathered at the bottom of the stairs, sensing blood. The humiliation was public now. "I'm just here to get my things," Vivian said, gripping the banister. "Your things." Beatrice laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "You mean the clothes my son bought you, the jewelry my son paid it for. You leave with what you came with, honey," which, if I recall, was a distinct smell of roasted beans and desperation. Beatrice signaled to the security guard standing near the entrance. "Jenkins, escort Ms. Hall to the guest room. Give her a trash bag. She has 5 minutes to fill it with her personal rags. Anything with a designer label stays." Vivian felt the heat rise in her cheeks. Not shame. Anger. Pure, molten anger. "You really want to do this now, Beatrice?" Vivian asked quietly. "In front of your guests, in front of the investors." "I want everyone to see," Beatrice announced, raising her glass to the crowd below. "This is what happens when you try to climb a mountain you aren't built for. You fall. Goodbye, Vivian. Don't steal the silverware on your way out." The crowd laughed. It was a polite, cruel ripple of laughter that echoed through the marble hall. Vivian looked at them. She looked at Liam, who had just entered the foyer, and was pointedly looking away, pretending to examine a painting. He wouldn't even look her in the eye while his mother eviscerated her. "Fine," Vivian said. Her voice carried clear and bell-like over the laughter. "I'll leave. But remember this, Beatrice. Remember this, Liam. You measure worth by labels and price tags. You think power is shouting at waiters and buying things you can't afford to impress people you don't like." She walked down the stairs, passing Beatrice. She leaned in close, so only the older woman could hear. "You mentioned the DeWitt investment earlier, the deal to save Liam's Skyline project." Beatrice narrowed her eyes. "What do you know about business, you little rat?" "I know that deals built on sand tend to collapse when the tide comes in," Vivian whispered. "And the tide is coming, Beatrice. It's coming very fast." She walked past them head high. She didn't go to the room. She didn't pack a bag. She walked straight out the front door, past the valet, and into the darkness of the driveway, where Arthur was waiting in the shadows. As she climbed into the car, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her real lawyer, a man named Marcus Thorne. Wait no Harrison Blackwood, no cliché names allowed. A man named Silas Vance. Text from Silas. The board is assembled. They are waiting for the chairwoman. Are you ready to come back to life, Ms.? Sterling, Vivian, looked back at the Anderson estate, glowing with golden light, filled with people who despised her. She typed a single word reply. "Now." "Arthur," she said, shedding the soft voice of Vivian Hall forever. "Take me to the airstrip. The jet is fueled. We're going to Zurich tonight. I have a company to reclaim." "And the Anderson file, madame?" Arthur asked, pulling the car onto the main road. "Open it," Vivian said, staring at her reflection in the dark window. "Freeze their credit lines, call in the short-term loans on their construction firm, and tell the acquisition team to prepare a hostile bid for DeWitt Logistics. I want to own everything they think makes them better than me." "Very good, madame." As the Rolls-Royce sped away into the night, the first domino fell. Inside the party, Liam's credit card was declined at the bar. 6 months had passed since Vivian walked out of the Anderson estate. In the world of the ultra-wealthy, 6 months is usually enough time to plan a wedding merge, 2 companies, or ruin a reputation. For the Andersons, it was enough time to feel the ground turn into quicksand. Liam stood in the center of his crowning achievement, the Aurora Skyline Tower. It was supposed to be a 70-story marvel of glass and steel that would redefine the Manhattan skyline. Instead, it was a silent skeleton. The cranes were still. The workers were gone. The only sound was the flapping of a plastic tarp in the wind. "Why have they stopped?" Liam screamed into his phone, his knuckles white. "I signed the requisition forms yesterday." "Mr. Anderson." The site foreman's voice crackled, sounding tired. "The suppliers didn't get it paid. The cement trucks turned around at the gate. They said your credit line with First National has been frozen." "That's impossible," Liam snapped. "My mother had lunch with the bank president last week." "Then you better call your mother," the foreman said, and hung up. Liam threw his phone against the concrete pillar. It shattered a spider web of cracks appearing on the screen. Just like his life. Since Vivian left, the Anderson family's luck had rotted. It started small. Misplaced files, missed deadlines. Then the inspections started. The IRS audited them twice. The Department of Labor launched an investigation into their hiring practices. Then the loans started getting called in. Liam drove back to the office, a sleek building in Midtown that now felt like a mausoleum. When he arrived, the reception desk was empty. His assistant, a capable woman named Sarah, had quit 3 days ago, claiming she couldn't work in a toxic environment. He barged into his office to find Beatrice sitting on his leather sofa nursing a migraine. Next to her was Chloe scrolling through Instagram on her phone. "Did you fix it?" Beatrice asked, not opening her eyes. "The site is shut down," Liam said, collapsing into his chair. "The bank froze us out. Mom, you said the DeWitt investment was secure. Where is Chloe's father's money?" Chloe looked up, popping a piece of gum. "Daddy is hesitant. He says investing in a sinking ship is bad for his own portfolio. He's waiting for the market to stabilize." "Stabilize?" Liam slammed his fist on the desk. "We are sinking because he won't invest." "It's a paradox, Chloe. Tell him if he doesn't sign the check by Friday, we lose the building." "Don't yell at me, Liam," Chloe whined. "I'm stressed too. The wedding planner says the florist won't take a deposit anymore. They want full payment up front. It's embarrassing. Do you know how hard it is to plan the wedding of the century when your fiancé's credit card gets declined at Starbucks? The wedding?" Liam laughed, a manic, jagged sound. "We are about to lose the company, and you're worried about flowers." "Stop it, both of you," Beatrice hissed, standing up. "We are Andersons. We do not panic. This is just a hostile market cycle. Someone is manipulating the board." "Who?" Liam asked. "Who has the power to turn every bank in the city against us?" Just then the intercom on Liam's desk buzzed. It shouldn't have buzzed. There was no receptionist. Liam stared at it. He pressed the button. "Who is this?" "A visitor," a smooth baritone voice replied. "Mr. Silas Vance. I'm here representing your new primary creditor." Liam looked at Beatrice. Her face went pale. "Send him in," Liam said. The door opened and a man walked in. Silas Vance was terrifyingly well-groomed. He wore a charcoal suit that was tailored to the millimeter rimless glasses and held a briefcase that looked like it contained nuclear codes. He didn't smile. He didn't offer a hand. He simply walked to the empty chair opposite Liam and sat down. "Who are you?" Beatrice demanded. "We bank with First National. We don't know you." "First National sold your debt packages this morning," Silas said calmly, opening his briefcase. "They considered your assets toxic. My client, however, specializes in distressed assets. As of 9:00 a.m., the Sterling Group owns your construction loans, the mortgage on your Hamptons estate, and the lien on this office building." "The Sterling Group," Liam frowned. "I've never heard of them." "That is by design," Silas said. "Real power doesn't advertise on billboards, Mr. Anderson." Silas slid a document across the desk. It was a foreclosure notice. "You have 48 hours to pay the outstanding balance of $120 million, Silas stated. "Or we seize the assets, all of them, including the land the Skyline Tower sits on." "This is insane," Chloe shrieked. "My father knows people. You can't just take their company." Silas turned his cold gaze to Chloe. "Ah, Ms. DeWitt. Your father, Franklin DeWitt, was actually the first to sell. He offloaded his 15% stake in Anderson Architecture to us yesterday. He made quite a profit." "Smart man." Chloe gasped. "Daddy sold his shares." "He saw the writing on the wall," Silas said. He stood up. 48 hours, Mr. Anderson. My client is not known for mercy." "Wait." Liam scrambled up. "Who is your client? I want a meeting. I can explain the delays. I can restructure." Silas paused at the door. He adjusted his glasses. "The CEO is currently in New York for the Global Economic Summit. They are staying at the Obsidian Penthouse. If you want to beg, that is where you go. But I suggest you bring something more valuable than excuses." Silas Vance walked out, leaving the three of them in a silence so heavy it felt like the room was under water. "Sterling Group?" Beatrice whispered, her hands shaking. "I've heard rumors. They operate out of Zurich. They buy countries, Liam, not companies. Why are they targeting us?" Liam stared at the foreclosure notice. "I don't know, but we have to go to that penthouse. Tonight." The Obsidian Tower was the newest, most exclusive address in Manhattan. It made the Andersons' buildings look like Lego sets. The penthouse occupied the top 3 floors, a fortress of glass looking down on the ants of the city. Liam, Beatrice, and a reluctant Chloe stood in the lobby. They had been waiting for 3 hours. "This is humiliating," Beatrice muttered, shifting in her heels. "We are Andersons. We do not wait in lobbies." "We do when we're broke, Mother," Liam said, his voice hollow. He looked tired. He hadn't slept in 2 days. He missed the way his life used to be organized calm. He realized now that the calm wasn't natural. It was maintained by Vivian. He pushed the thought away. Vivian was gone. This was business. Finally, a security guard approached them. "The CEO will see you now. Top floor. You have 10 minutes." They rode the elevator in silence. The numbers ticked up, ears popping with the altitude. When the doors opened, they weren't in an office. They were in a vast living space that looked like a museum. Modern art that cost millions lined the walls. The view of Central Park was panoramic. In the center of the room sat a long conference table made of black marble. Silas Vance was standing there. But he wasn't the one in charge. At the head of the table sat a woman. Her back was to them. She was looking out the window at the city lights. She wore a white power suit, sharp, angular, pristine. Her hair, once usually tied back in a messy bun, was now a sleek, dark curtain falling down her back. "Mr. Vance," Liam started, his voice trembling. "Thank you for this opportunity. We didn't know who we were dealing with." "Sit," the woman said. Liam froze. Beatrice grabbed his arm. Her nails dug into his skin. "Liam," she hissed. "That voice." The woman turned her chair around slowly. It wasn't the Vivian they knew. The Vivian they knew wore oversized sweaters and apologized for taking up space. This woman occupied the space like she owned the oxygen within it. Her makeup was flawless, accentuating eyes that were no longer soft, but hard as diamonds. On her neck sat a necklace, the Cartier Panthère, worth more than the house Liam had kicked her out of. "Hello, Liam," Vivian said. "Hello, Beatrice." Liam's knees actually gave out. He stumbled, gripping the back of a chair. "Vivian, no," Chloe squeaked, stepping back. "No, no, no. She's the barista. She's the poor one." Vivian didn't even look at Chloe. She picked up a crystal glass of water and took a sip. "Please sit down. You wanted to restructure your debt. Let's talk business." "You," Beatrice pointed a shaking finger, "you are the CEO of Sterling Group." "That's a lie. You're a fraud. You married my son for his money." "Did I?" Vivian smiled. It was a terrifying expression. "Let's correct the record, Beatrice. I didn't marry Liam for his money. I married him despite his lack of it." "Lack?" Liam found his voice. "We are millionaires." "You were millionaires," Vivian corrected. "I am a billionaire, Liam. Multi. My grandfather was Elias Sterling, the shipping magnate, the banker of kings. When he died 3 years ago, I inherited everything. But I wanted a normal life. I wanted to be loved for me, not the checkbook. So I created Vivian Hall. I worked in a coffee shop. I met you. I fell in love." She stood up and walked around the table, the heels of her shoes clicking rhythmically on the marble. "I scrubbed your floors, Liam. I cooked your meals. I listened to your mother call me trash for 3 years. I held the keys to a kingdom, and I played the pauper because I wanted to believe you were a good man." She stopped right in front of him, the scent of her perfume. Baccarat Rouge 540 filled his nose. "But you aren't a good man. You're small. You're weak. And when you threw me out like garbage, you woke up the Sterling." "Vivian, please." Liam stammered, his brain struggling to recalibrate. "Baby, if I had known. We can fix this. I still love you. The divorce. It was a mistake. I was stressed." Vivian laughed. "You don't love me, Liam. You love that I own your debt." She turned to Silas. "Show them." Silas projected an image onto the wall. It was a complex diagram of the Anderson Corporation. "I didn't just buy your debt," Vivian explained, walking back to her seat. "I bought your supply chain. I bought the land rights to your projects. I even bought the patent for the specialized glass you use in your designs. I own the air you breathe, Liam." "What do you want?" Beatrice croaked. She looked 10 years older than she had 10 minutes ago. "Do you want to humiliate us? Fine. You win. We are humiliated. Humiliation is free, Beatrice. I'm not interested in that, Vivian said, sitting down and crossing her legs. I'm interested in liquidation. You can't, Liam whispered. That company is my grandfather's legacy. And you dishonored it, Vivian replied sharply. But I am a businesswoman. I will offer you a deal, a lifeline. Hope flared in Liam's eyes. Anything, I'll do anything. Vivian leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. I will forgive the debt. I will refinance the Skyline project. I will save the Anderson name from bankruptcy. Thank you, Vivian. Oh God, thank you. Liam took a step toward her. Sit down, she commanded. There is a price. What is it? 3 things, Vivian listed, holding up her fingers. 1. Beatrice steps down from the board permanently. She will be moved to a retirement facility of my choosing. No access to company funds. Beatrice gasped. You little witch. 2. Vivian continued, ignoring her. Chloe, you leave, now. You dump him. You walk out of this room, and you never contact him again. If you do, I will buy your father's logistics company and liquidate it by lunch tomorrow. Do we have an understanding? Chloe looked at Liam. Then she looked at Vivian. Then she looked at the door. I never really liked him anyway, she muttered and bolted for the elevator. Chloe, Liam shouted. She's gone, Liam, Vivian said, which brings me to condition 3. What is it? Liam asked, tears streaming down his face. He had lost his mistress, his mother was being exiled, and his pride was ash. Condition 3, Vivian said softly. You keep the company. You keep the title of CEO. But I own 51% of the controlling shares. You work for me now. Every decision, every blueprint, every check goes through me. You wanted a partner who brought value. Congratulations, you got one. You are going to be my employee, Liam, and you are going to work harder than you have ever worked in your life to pay me back every single cent you cost me. She slid a contract across the black marble table. Sign it, or get out and be homeless by morning. Liam looked at the pen. It was the same Mont Blanc she had used to sign the divorce papers. He looked at his mother, weeping silently. He looked at the empty elevator where Chloe had fled. He picked up the pen. The definition of hell, Liam soon realized, was not fire and brimstone. It was fluorescent lighting and a glass-walled office in the center of a bustling floor where everyone could see you sweat. Under the restructuring deal, Liam remained the CEO of Anderson Architecture, but the title was a hollow shell. His corner office with the mahogany desk and the view of the Hudson had been converted into a collaborative break room for the staff. Vivian argued that the best views should belong to the people doing the actual work. Liam's new workspace was a 10x10 glass cube in the middle of the drafting department. He arrived at 7:00 a.m. on a Tuesday, his security badge beeping red at the turnstile. Access denied, the robotic voice chirped. Liam sighed, feeling the eyes of the interns on him. He walked over to the security desk. It's happening again, Frank. Frank, the guard who used to salute Liam, didn't look up from his monitor. New policy, Mr. Anderson. Random security audits. You need to sign in as a provisional employee until HR clears your badge again. I am the CEO, Liam hissed. You're an employee of Sterling Group, Frank corrected, sliding a clipboard across the counter. Sign here. Print clearly. By the time Liam got to his glass cube, he was already exhausted. His inbox was full, not with gala invitations or golf retreat offers, but with requisition denials. Every expense, every decision, every pencil purchase had to be approved by the Oversight Committee. And the Oversight Committee was Vivian. At 10:00 a.m., the floor went silent. The rhythmic clicking of heels announced her arrival. Vivian walked through the department like a queen inspecting her troops. She wasn't wearing the severe suits anymore. She wore softer fluid silk that made her look ethereal yet untouchable. Silas walked a step behind her, holding a tablet. She stopped at Liam's glass cube. She didn't knock. She just slid the door open. "Good morning, Liam," she said. Her voice was pleasant professional and utterly devoid of warmth. "Vivian?" Liam stood up, straightening his tie. He tried to summon the old charm, the smile that used to make her blush. "You look incredible. That color, it reminds me of our honeymoon in Cabo." Vivian didn't blink. "That wasn't a honeymoon, Liam. That was a business trip for your father where I spent 4 days in the hotel room with food poisoning while you played golf. Now regarding the Aurora project." She dropped a thick file on his desk. "I've reviewed your revised blueprints for the lobby," she said. "They're rejected." "Rejected?" Liam bristled. "That's Italian marble. It's timeless. It's porous and high maintenance," Vivian countered, tapping the glass table. "And it puts us 20% over budget. I replaced it with a composite quartz from a supplier in Sweden. It looks better, lasts longer, and costs half as much." "You can't just change my designs," Liam argued, his face flushing. "I'm the architect." "You're the figurehead," Vivian corrected calmly. "And frankly, Liam, your designs haven't evolved since 2015. You rely on flash to hide structural laziness. I fixed the load-bearing issue on the east wing, by the way. You miscalculated the wind shear." Liam stared at her. He wanted to scream. But the worst part was, she was right. He had delegated the math to a junior associate. He hadn't checked it. "Is there anything else?" he muttered. "Yes," Vivian said, checking her watch. "We have the investor walk-through at noon. I need you to be there to shake hands and look pretty. But don't speak about the financials. You tend to round up. I prefer accuracy." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Liam." "Yes." Hope flared in his chest. Maybe a crack in the armor. "The interns are complaining that you're stealing their creamer from the fridge. Stop it. Buy your own." She walked away. Through the glass walls, Liam saw the junior architects snickering. He sank into his chair, burying his face in his hands. He was earning a salary of $1 a year, plus performance bonuses Vivian had made statistically impossible to achieve. He was working off a $20 million debt. At this rate, he would be free in roughly 400 years. 3 months later, the Aurora skyline finally opened. Thanks to Vivian's brutal efficiency and deep pockets, the building was finished ahead of schedule. It was a masterpiece. The press called it the resurrection of the Anderson legacy. The launch party was the event of the season. The ballroom on the 70th floor was a sea of tuxedos and designer gowns. Liam stood near the bar nursing a club soda. Alcohol was not covered on the company expense account. He felt a swell of pride. Despite everything, his name was on the building. He fixed his bow tie and prepared to make his speech. He would thank Vivian, of course. He would be humble. Maybe, just maybe, tonight would be the night she saw him as an equal again. The music lowered. The spotlight swept across the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer boomed, "please welcome the chairwoman of Sterling Group, Ms. Vivian Sterling." The crowd applauded politely. Vivian stepped onto the stage. She wore a gown of shimmering silver that looked like liquid mercury. She was radiant, but she wasn't alone. A man held her hand as she ascended the stairs. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He wasn't pretty like Liam. He was rugged. He had a scar above his eyebrow and eyes that were fiercely intelligent. Liam felt a knot of jealousy tighten in his stomach. Who was this, a bodyguard? Vivian took the microphone. Thank you all. This building represents a new chapter, not just of steel and glass, but of integrity. We built this on a foundation of transparency. She smiled at the man beside her. I would like to introduce the lead structural engineer who made the impossible cantilever on the top floors possible, a man who owns the patents to the sustainable energy grid powering this tower. My partner in business and in life, Mr. Dominic Cross. The crowd erupted. The applause was thunderous. Dominic Cross. The Dominic Cross. The billionaire industrialist who had revolutionized high-speed rail in Europe. Liam dropped his glass. It shattered on the floor, but no one noticed. They were too busy watching Dominic lean in and whisper something to Vivian that made her laugh, a genuine, throaty laugh that Liam hadn't heard in years. After the speech, Liam tried to maneuver through the crowd. He needed to talk to her. He needed to mark his territory, even if that territory was a scorched wasteland. He found them near the balcony. Dominic had his hand on the small of Vivian's back. Vivian, Liam interrupted, forcing a smile. Great speech. Vivian turned. Her eyes cooled instantly. Hello, Liam. Have you met Dominic? I know of him, Liam said, stiffly, extending a hand. I'm the architect, Liam Anderson. Dominic looked at Liam's hand, then shook it firmly. His grip was like a vice. The architect, right. Vivian told me about you. You're the one who thought Italian marble was a good idea for a high-traffic lobby. Dominic didn't smile. It was an aesthetic choice, Liam defended. It was an amateur choice, Dominic said simply. Vivian fixed it. She has a brilliant eye for function. That's why I love her. She sees things as they are, not as she wants them to be. Love. The word hung in the air like a guillotine blade. So, Liam laughed nervously. Is this a merger? You could say that, Vivian said, leaning into Dominic. Dominic and I are engaged, Liam. The world stopped spinning for Liam. Engaged, but the divorce. It hasn't even been a year. When you know the value of something, you don't hesitate, Dominic said, looking down at Vivian with undeniable adoration. You locked her in a kitchen, Anderson. You hid her. I intend to put her name on the side of planes. Excuse us, Vivian said. We have to greet the mayor. As they turned to leave, Vivian paused. Oh, Liam. One more thing. What? Liam whispered, broken. Beatrice is here, Vivian said, gesturing to the service entrance. She wasn't on the guest list, but security caught her trying to sneak into the AV room. I told them not to call the police. Yet. The descent from the 71st floor to the basement felt less like an elevator ride and more like a fall from grace. The polished brass and mirrored surfaces of the Aurora Skyline's public elevators gave way to the scratched steel and industrial hum of the service lift. Liam watched the floor numbers plummet, his reflection staring back at him, pale, sweating his bow tie, undone a man unraveling in real time. When the doors slid open, the air was different. It didn't smell of expensive perfume and champagne anymore. It smelled of ozone concrete dust and the stale recycled air of the underground. The security holding room was at the end of a long fluorescent-lit corridor. Two burly guards stood outside, their arms crossed, looking more like prison wardens than corporate security. Liam pushed past them, ignoring their attempts to block him. "Get out of my way! That's my mother in there!" He burst into the room. It was a stark, windowless box, designed for interrogation, with cinder block walls, painted a depressing shade of institutional grey. In the center, bolted to the concrete floor, was a metal table. And there sat Beatrice Anderson, the woman who had ruled New York high society for 3 decades, who had sneered at waiters and terrorized event planners, looked like a broken doll. Her expensive trench coat was rumpled, stained with grease from where she must have been forced against a wall. Her wig, usually glued to perfection, had slipped askew, revealing the thinning grey hair beneath. One of her hands was handcuffed to the table loop. "Mum." Liam's voice cracked. The sight of her stripped of her armor made his stomach turn. Beatrice's head snapped up. Her eyes were wide, frantic, darting around the room as if tracking invisible flies. "Liam. Oh, thank God. Tell them Liam. Tell these brutes who I am. I am Beatrice Anderson. I own this city." "You don't own anything, Mom," Liam whispered, rushing to her side. He grabbed her free hand. It was ice cold and trembling. "What did you do? Why are you here?" "I had to stop her," Beatrice hissed, leaning in close, her breath smelling of sour fear and mints. "She's erasing us, Liam. Do you see it? She's scrubbing our name off the walls. Sterling Cross. It's an abomination. I couldn't let her launch the server. I had to kill it." "Kill it?" Liam pulled back, horrified. "Mom, this building is fully automated. If you crash the server, the safety systems fail. The elevators, the fire suppression. You could have hurt people." "Collateral damage?" Beatrice shrieked, slamming her free hand on the table. The handcuff rattled violently against the metal. "It's war, Liam, and you're too soft to fight it." Before Liam could respond, the heavy steel door creaked open behind them. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. The frantic energy of Beatrice's hysteria was sucked out, replaced by a vacuum of terrifying calm. Vivian stood in the doorway. She didn't look like the woman who had just charmed the mayor and the press upstairs. The public mask was gone. In the harsh, fluorescent light of the basement, she looked like a judge arriving at a sentencing. Her silver gown caught the light, making her look like she was forged from steel. Behind her stood Silas Vance, clutching a laptop, and Dominic Cross. Dominic didn't enter fully. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a silent, imposing wall of muscle protecting the woman he loved. "Uncuff her," Vivian ordered quietly. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried an authority that made the guard in the corner scramble for his keys. "Vivian, please," Liam begged, stepping between his mother and his ex-wife. He held his hands up in surrender. "She's not well. Look at her. She's having a breakdown. Don't press charges. I'll take her home. I'll admit her to a clinic tonight. Just don't call the police." Vivian walked further into the room. The clicking of her heels on the concrete was a slow, rhythmic drumbeat. She stopped 3 feet from the table, looking down at Beatrice with an expression that wasn't anger, but something far worse, pity. "We aren't calling the police, Liam," Silas Vance said, stepping forward. He placed a small black flash drive on the table. "Though we should. Your mother was caught in the server room attempting to upload a malware packet. It was clumsy, outdated code, but it would have corrupted the financial records of the project. It's corporate sabotage, a federal felony carrying a minimum of 10 years. I was trying to expose you." Beatrice spat, rubbing her red, chafed wrist where the cuff had been. She stood up, swaying slightly, trying to summon the ghost of her former arrogance. I wanted the world to see the truth. You're a thief, Vivian. You stole my son's birthright. I stole nothing, Vivian said, her voice cool and steady. I reclaimed what was mine. Liar! Beatrice screamed. You think you're so righteous. You think you're avenging your precious grandfather. Elias. Sterling was a crook. My husband Liam's father was a hero. He saved that project in Dubai. He saved everyone when your grandfather tried to embezzle the funds. The silence that followed was deafening. The hum of the ventilation system seemed to roar in Liam's ears. He looked from his mother's wild red face to Vivian's marble-still expression. What is she talking about? Liam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Dubai. My dad never worked in Dubai. He started Anderson Architecture in Brooklyn. Vivian closed her eyes for a brief second, inhaling deeply as if preparing to lift a heavy weight. When she opened them, they were locked onto Liam. Your mother knows a secret, Liam, Vivian said softly. But she has told herself the lie for so long, she actually believes it. Vivian signaled to Silas. The lawyer opened a folder he had been carrying and spread a series of yellowed, aged documents across the metal table. They were photocopies of bank transfers, police reports, and a death certificate. 30 years ago, Vivian began, her voice gaining strength, echoing off the cinder blocks. My grandfather, Elias Sterling, and your father, Robert Anderson, were partners. They weren't just business associates. They were best friends. They bid on the Al Mirage project in Dubai. It was supposed to be the jewel of the Middle East. Vivian walked around the table, trailing her hand along the edge. My grandfather put up the capital. Your father put up the design. But 6 months into construction, $50 million vanished from the operating account. Liam looked down at the documents. He saw his father's signature. He saw the numbers. Robert Anderson didn't save the project, Vivian said, the pain in her voice becoming sharp and raw. He stole the money, Liam. He funneled it through shell companies in the Cayman Islands. And then he doctored the ledgers to make it look like Elias had done it. No, Liam shook his head, backing away. That's not true. My dad was an honorable man. He taught me how to play baseball. He built this company from nothing. He built it with my inheritance, Vivian shouted. The composure finally cracked. The billionaire CEO vanished, replaced by the grieving granddaughter she had once been. Her voice broke, echoing with decades of suppressed rage. He framed my grandfather. Elias was arrested in a foreign country. He was stripped of his license, his dignity, and his name. He lost everything. He died of a massive heart attack in a holding cell 6 months later, disgraced and broken. My grandmother died of grief a week after that. She pointed a trembling finger at Beatrice. And she knew. She knew every single cent of the Anderson fortune was dripping with the blood of my family. Beatrice didn't deny it. She just slumped back into her chair, covering her face with her hands, sobbing quietly. Liam felt the room spinning. The foundation of his life, the pride he had in the Anderson name, the arrogance of his upbringing, was built on a lie. A crime. I didn't know, Liam whispered, tears spilling down his cheeks. Vivian, I swear to God I didn't know. I know you didn't, Vivian said. Her anger seemed to evaporate, leaving behind a profound sadness. She looked at Liam not as an enemy, but as a tragedy. That is the only reason I didn't destroy you immediately. Liam looked up confused. What? I tracked you down 3 years ago. Vivian admitted, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. I came to New York to burn the Anderson name to the ground. I wanted to make you pay for the sins of your father, but then I walked into that coffee shop." She took a step closer to him. Dominic tensed by the door, ready to intervene, but Vivian held up a hand to stop him. "You were kind, Liam. You were funny. You smiled at me when nobody else did. And I thought, maybe the son isn't the father. Maybe the blood isn't poisoned." She let out a shaky breath. "I married you because I wanted to forgive. I wanted to believe that if I loved you, and if you loved me back, really loved me for me, not for money or status, then the past could be buried. I was willing to let the 50 million go. I was willing to let the Anderson Company stand. I was ready to live as Vivian Hall, the barista, for the rest of my life, just to be happy with you." Liam felt a knife twist in his heart. He realized with sickening clarity just how close he had been to salvation. He had held a multi-billion-dollar fortune and a woman of incredible substance in his arms, and he had thrown them both away for a skyline view and a woman like Chloe. "But you failed the test," Vivian said, her voice hardening again, the diamond turning cold. "You were exactly like them. You measured people by their utility. You treated me like an accessory. And the moment you thought I was a liability, you discarded me on our anniversary." She wiped a tear from her cheek with a furious swipe of her hand. "That night at the restaurant, that was the moment I realized I couldn't save you. You are an Anderson. You take and you destroy. So I did what I had to do. I collected the debt." She turned to Beatrice, who was still weeping into her hands. "Your husband took my grandfather's life, so I took your legacy. We are even." Vivian reached into her small silver clutch. She didn't pull out a weapon. She pulled out a single folded document on heavy legal paper. She tossed it onto the metal table. It landed with a soft thud next to the evidence of his father's crimes. "What is this?" Liam asked, his throat dry. "Termination of rights," Vivian said. "The Anderson name is Toxic Liam. As of tomorrow morning, the corporation ceases to exist. The assets have been absorbed. The branding is already being removed." "You're firing me?" Liam asked. "You're throwing me out on the street?" "No," Vivian said, shaking her head slowly. "I'm setting you free." Liam blinked. "I don't understand." "The debt is forgiven," Vivian stated. "I am dissolving the promissory note. You don't owe me $120 million anymore. I am not going to sue you. I am not going to prosecute your mother, provided she disappears to the facility I have selected for her." She looked him up and down, taking in his disheveled tuxedo, his fear, his emptiness. "You are free to go, Liam, but you leave with nothing. No company, no trust fund, no reputation, no golden parachute. You are starting over from zero, just like my grandfather had to. It was a mercy, and it was a death sentence. In the world, Liam knew having zero was worse than being dead." "So, that's it?" Liam asked, his voice trembling. "I just walk out?" "You walk out," Vivian nodded. "And you find out who Liam Anderson is when he isn't standing on a pile of stolen money." She turned on her heel, the silver dress swirling around her legs. She walked toward the door where Dominic was waiting. He reached out and took her hand, interlacing his fingers with hers, a gesture of solidarity and strength that Liam had never offered her. "Vivian!" Liam called out, desperation seizing him one last time. She stopped in the doorway, framed by the darkness of the corridor. She didn't turn around. Her back was straight, her head high. "Did you ever really love me?" Liam asked the question, hanging in the damp air like a ghost. Or was it all just a test? Vivian paused. The silence stretched for a heartbeat. I loved the man I thought you were, she said, her voice echoing softly off the concrete walls. But I realized that man never existed. He was just a reflection of what I wanted to see. She stepped through the door. Dominic cast one last dark look at Liam, a look of warning and finality before following her. The heavy steel door swung shut with a resounding clang, the sound of a vault locking forever. Liam was left standing in the cold grey room, the hum of the server banks vibrating through the soles of his shoes, alone with his weeping mother, and the terrible, liberating weight of having absolutely nothing left to lose. Liam Anderson spent his whole life standing on a mountain he didn't build thinking he was a giant. It took falling to the bottom to realize that true stature comes from what you can endure, not what you can buy. He lost a fortune, but in the silence of that coffee shop, he might have finally found himself. Vivian Sterling proved that the most dangerous thing you can do is underestimate the quiet ones, because while you're busy shouting about your worth, they're busy owning the building you're standing in. If you enjoyed this story of revenge redemption and the cold, hard truth about money, hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story. What would you have done in Vivian's shoes? Forgiven him or destroyed him? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.